Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotee, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Param Bhuya Pravakshami Jnananganamuttamam Tata Munaye Sharve Param Siddhimita Gataha.
Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom."
I cannot hear.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Hello?
Little bit better.
Can you speak a little bit louder, Mataji? We can't hear you, or come closer to your computer.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all sages have attained the supreme perfection."
Number 2. Idanganamupasrita Mama Shadharmamagataha Shargyopi na pujayante Pralayena vatanti cha.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Number 3. Mama yoni mahat brahma Tasmin garbhang dadhamaham Sambhavaha sarvabhutani Tato bhavati bharata.
The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the birth of all living beings, O son of Bharata.
Number 4. Sarva yoneshu kanteya muttaya shambhavanti jaha tashang brahma mahot yoning tashang brahma joni aham bija pratapita.
It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father.
Number 5. Shattang rajastama yiti gunaha prakriti shambhavaha nivattanti mahabaho dehi dehi namapayam.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes.
Number 6. Tatra shattang nirmalata prakashamana manamayam shukha shangena bhatnatni jnana shangena chanakava.
O sinless one, the modes of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge.
Number 7. Raja ragatakam vidhi Krishna shangam samudbhavam tanni vadnati kanteya karma shangena dehinam.
The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to the material fruitive actions.
Number 8. Tamasya ganajang vidhi mohanang sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidravi vadnatni bharata.
O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
Number 9. Shattam Shuke Sanjayati Rajah Karmani Bharata Gano Mabrita tu Tamaha Pramade Sanjayatuta.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions to one's happiness, passion conditions to fruitive action, and ignorance covering one's knowledge binds one to madness.
Number 10. Rajastamascha vibhuya Shattang bhavati bharata Raja Shattang tamaschaiva Tamaha Shattang rajastata.
Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
Number 11. Sharvadareshu dehestin prakasha upajayate jnanam jada tatha pitta viddhing shattamittuto.
The manifestations of the modes of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
Number 12. Lobho pravrittirarambha karmana manasha spriha Rajashetani jayante vibrite bharatashava.
O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavour, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop.
Number 13. Aprakasha prapritisha pramada maha cha tamo shetani jayante viprite kurunandana.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
Number 14. Jada shatte prapitte tu pralayang jati deha prit tadutto midanang lokam amalang pratipaddate.
When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages.
Number 15. Rajarshi pralayang gatta karma sangeshu jayate tatha pralinastamashi murajoneshu jayate.
When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth amongst those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom.
Number 16. Karmana shukriti shaha shatikang nirmalang phalam raja shatta phalang dukkha ajnanam tamasha phalam.
The result of pious action is pure, and it is said to be in the mode of goodness. But the action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and the action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness.
Number 17. Shattat sanjayate ganam rajasho lobhayeva cha pramada mahutamosha bhavato ganameva cha.
From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance develops foolishness, madness, and illusion.
Number 18. Uddham gachanti tashattasha moddhe tishtati rajashaha jaghanna guna vrittasha adha gachanti tamashaha.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds.
Number 19. Nanang gunnevata kartarang yada drashtahan pashyati गुणेवश्च परमं वेत्ति मद्भावं सहृदि गच्छति.
When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is the transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature.
Number 20. Gunanetanatena dehi deho samuddhavam janma mrityu jara dukkhai vimuktam metatmasnute.
When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life.
Number 21. Kailang stina gunate tan atito bhavati prabha kimachara katham chaitang sina gunanita vartate.
Arjuna inquired, "O my dear Lord, by which symptom is one known to have by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior and how does he transcend these modes of nature?"
22 to 25. Sri Bhagavanuvāca prakāśaṁca pravrittiṁca mohameva ca pandava nyādishtīṣam pravītāni nāni bhattanti kaṅkhati udāsīna vadāsīnai gunacca ca vicālate gunabhattanta ittevang Jahavatistinengate Shama Dukha Sukha Shasta Shramalashtashtha Kanchana Tullo Priya Priyodhira Atul Nindata Sangstiti Manapamana Stullai Mitrari Pakshayo Sarvarambha Parityagi Gunatita Sha Uchyate.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O son of Bandhu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities, such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature."
Number 26. Mancha Johovi Abhicharine Bhakti Yogena Shevate Shagunan Chamutatan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
Number 27. Brahmana hi patishtaham amritasya vashya shashvatasya dharmasya sukhasya kantikasya cha.
I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Hare Krishna.
Om Tat Sat Iti Sri Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambhade Jiguna Vibhag Yoga Namak Chaturdasha Adhyaya. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. Please forgive me any mistake I made. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, both the Mataji's beautiful recitation. Thank you so much. It was really very soothing and very, very nice and purifying to hear from you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, please accept my humble obeisances, dear devotees, and thank you so much for this opportunity again that I'm able to share something. But I would like to do that with your blessings and permission. And I beg for your mercy so that the right words come out at the right time and I can do this service in the right consciousness. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam
Trump something. Just
Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी नीति नामिने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नीति नामिने मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वरम् ओम तत्सत्. Please let me know, dear devotees. I will share the PowerPoint if you could see if it appears on your screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, it's there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So, Bhagavad Gita as it is, we are discussing chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, and in Sanskrit it's Traigunya Vibhag Yoga. So, we are now today at doing the verse 18. But first of all, let's go through the chapter summary. So there are three sections in this chapter. The first section is 1 to 13 verses, how the soul is conditioned by the modes, glorification of the knowledge, how the soul contacts matter, how the modes bind the soul, identifying the modes dominating us by their principal characteristics. The second section is 14 to 18, the effect of conditioning by the modes, how we are acting and dying within the modes. Today's verse, direction of post-death journey, according to the degree of various modes one is acting in, and the consciousness at the time of death determines the next destination of the living entity. And the last section will be about transcending the modes. That will be 19 to 27 verses. So today's verse is Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaganya gunavrittistha adho gachanti tamasaha. Translation: those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. So we will discuss the purport one by one. There are 3 slides of the purport, 3.5 paragraphs. Any volunteer would like to read the first paragraph?
I can do that, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead, Hema Mataji.
In this verse, the result of actions in the three modes of nature are more explicitly set forth. There is an upper planetary system, the consisting of the heavenly planets, where everyone is highly elevated. According to the degree of development of the mode of goodness, the living entity can be transferred to various planets in this system. The highest planet is Satyalok or Brahmalok, where the prime person of this universe, Lord Brahma, resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life in Brahmalok, but the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. And then the second, yes, Puja Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. The mode of passion is mixed. It is in the middle between the modes of goodness and ignorance. A person is not always pure, but even if he should be purely in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or a rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this planet, in the mode of passion or ignorance, cannot forcibly approach the higher planets by machine. In the mode of passion, there's also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. And the last one, who would like to read these two paragraphs?
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, Raslila. Srimati Mataji, sorry, is there one more devotee? I don't know.
Yeah, I was still.
Okay, Raslila, Srimati Mataji, please read, and then the last 4 lines, Shipra Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest quality in material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life, birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these abominable conditions. The word tamasa is very significant here. Tamasa indicates those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for reading so nicely. Thank you. So the focus of learning in this purport, this 14.8, is the first paragraph. It's according to the degree of goodness, one can go to different upper planetary systems. So Srila Prabhupada's purport talks about the various destinations of soul in this verse, depending on his mode and consciousness at the time of death. The first paragraph is discussing mode of goodness. Those who in this mode, their destination is higher planets of sages, Satyaloka or Brahmaloka. The second paragraph discusses mode of passion, which is mixed between goodness and ignorance. It's like the modes are like a spectrum. It's across various modes. It's not like that one mode is purely just acting all the time and other two are just dormant. No, it's a spectrum. So one could be in mode of goodness at the highest level of like passion, or lower level, but still in goodness. So it's across various modes. More or less, each mode, as per its dominance, decides our destination. If our mode is high towards goodness, but we are still a little bit in passion, then we will remain on the earth planet as a king or a rich man. And in the third paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says that, but if we are in passion and dominated by mode of ignorance, say we are in the passion, but the spectrum is higher towards ignorance, then we are going to go down to animal kingdom. I'm not going to discuss all the three modes and their characteristics and effects because we have learned all this time, right? Each verse and each mode in detail, we have, it's been beautifully discussed by all the speakers. So I will stick to the verse, and this verse talks about soul's destination. So we will try and discuss that today. So it's very risky, you see. If one is in ignorance, then they go down to animal planet. So what happens is once you end up in lower mode, your consciousness is so low that there is no chance to become Krishna conscious. One does not have any ability to, distinguish between good and bad. So one cannot elevate oneself. And then basically the animals, they just go through the evolution, and then they work their way up amongst the 8,400,000 species. So that's what happens to those who go down to the lower planets. And Srila Prabhupada clearly says that it is very risky. And the fourth point is a very hope giving point, which I'm very happy about, because I like to end with the hope that there is an opportunity for people, if they take up the process of Krishna consciousness, they can elevate themselves from the mode of passion and ignorance to the goodness mode, the sattva mode. And eventually, the main goal is to even go beyond goodness, because even goodness mode is binding, right? So the Shuddha Sattva should be our goal, that we want to serve Krishna in the higher, in Goloka Vrindavan or in Vaikuntha planet, wherever we go, but we want to come out of this conditioning. So I wanted to discuss. And slide 8. So I just jotted down some points. The main connection in this verse is the modes and soul's next destination. Those on Satyaloka, Brahmalok are on the highest stage of mode of goodness, although the crucial point is that even in Brahmalok there is death. So when the stipulated lifespan is over, Brahma himself has to give up his post. His time is up. So the conditioning is even there in the Satya and Brahmalok. That's what I'm trying to say. That even there, they want to progress to Shuddha Sattva. Whoever is living in those highest lokas, they are still bound by the conditioning. So there is this problem even in Brahmaloka. And so for them, the stepping stone is to move to Shuddha Sattva and go back to Godhead. On the earth planet has some benediction. Although we are in mode of passion, even the Lord appears on earth, right? Various incarnations. And the demigods, they pray to appear on the earth planet because of the valuable opportunity of Krishna consciousness. And especially the Kali Yuga, the benediction, the Hari Nam, we have been given is the way forward to go back to Godhead. So that's a golden opportunity on planet Earth. The mode of ignorance takes one to hellish planets where it's very difficult to become Krishna conscious. It's very risky. We already discussed. And there are mixtures of modes. So it's a spectrum of modes. Some people may be in passion, but at the lower end. So closer to ignorance. And Srila Prabhupada writes that in the mode of passion, if you are closer to the ignorance mode, there is a chance of becoming mad in the next life. And that's very, very risky, because once if that happens, you cannot elevate your consciousness easily. So we've discussed about the first point, the Satyaloka, what is Brahma's situation, that for him also there is a stipulated time. Now for demigods, what happens is that they are at the highest spectrum of mode of goodness, but lower spectrum of passion. So if you go to the destination of the planets of demigods, the mode predominantly is goodness, but so many times in the past times in the scriptures, we have heard about the king of demigods, Indra. He is prone to mode of passion. So many pastimes, one of them Govardhan pastime. So what I'm saying is that even in the planets of demigods, there is conditioning, they are bound. So, there is a gradation even within the modes. Each one is not purely one mode at a time. They are either progressive or regressive. And they are always, there is a race, they are competing. Like passion wants to become the boss and then wants the goodness and ignorance to serve, etc. So the gradation in animal kingdom, we can explain by the example of cow. Now, in animals, there is this pious jiva cow. So we can't call it in mode of ignorance, can we? Even then, the cow has ended up in the animal kingdom, but it's in the mode of goodness. So there are exceptions like this, and so we cannot look at everything as black and white in the modes. Everything has gradations. So each mode has high to low spectrum, and going towards either of the two modes, there is always a gradation. So the verse talks about broad categories of destination, and the purports are pretty clear on that. But from reading Srila Prabhupada's purport, I could see the subtleties of the gradations and spectrum of modes. So I quickly wanted to mention that and then move on to the next slide. Okay, I have prepared this chart, but then whatever is on it is already been discussed, all the binding, the different binding force and the characteristics, manifestations. The third and fourth table kind of relates to this verse. I'll share the slides so you can look at it. It's quite interesting. And the main thing is here I wanted to discuss is the result. In the sattva mode, what happens is here, there is the knowledge, right? The result of knowledge here. This knowledge, dear devotees, it does not refer to mundane worldly knowledge. It refers to the knowledge that we already, studied in the 13th chapter. Devotees, do you remember the verses 8 to 12? All those qualities, that's what this knowledge refers to. So in mode of goodness, the person who is living in that mode would have all those qualities. What were those qualities? For example, humility, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shanti, stairyam, shaucham, then vairagyam, indriyartheshu vairagyam. So this is the real knowledge here. It's not a mundane knowledge. So if we want to move up to mode of goodness, we need to acquire those qualities that are discussed in chapter 13, verses 8 to 12. So there is this again, one of my favorite slides. I'm not qualified to discuss universe, but I always get very tempted to because I like this topic a lot. But anyway, so here we can see that where Brahma is, that is Satyalok or Brahmalok, highest mode, highest destination for a jiva, like, those who are bound up in this 8,400,000 species, their highest destination, if they acquire those qualities and knowledge and realize it and be in the highest spectrum gradation of mode of goodness, they go there. And those who are in the mode of passion, who have so many desires, who are happy to work, do a very hard labor and just for the worldly pleasures, keep working hard, they are going to be here in the middle, the Bhulokaya. We are here, the Earth planet. And then those who are going to be in the higher spectrum of ignorance, say they are in passion, but still on the very high spectrum of ignorance, they are going to go down. So there are these 7 planets, but below this, there are 28 hellish planets. That's where those jivas will downgrade. They will go there. So that's why it's very important not to fall into mode of ignorance. And we know all the qualities of mode of ignorance by now, right? I mean, the characteristics: inertia, depression, procrastination, wanting to sleep all the time, lazy, forget about reading the shastras, not even waking up on time. There are lots of characteristics. So in fact, this verse is it's very fantastic, this chapter, basically, because there is a lot of hope here. We have this knowledge with the mercy of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So now we know what's happened to us, right? This why I have shown this slide, actually I forgot to mention, is these are the layers. So even Brahma is in this, or the entire one universe that has come out of the pores of Mahavishnu is bound by the modes. These layers are so difficult to cross and go beyond. Beyond this will be the Brahman, and the higher stages go Vishnu Lokas, and the highest will be Goloka. So why it is so difficult for Jiva to leave this? Because each layer is denser and thicker than the previous. Thicker, thicker, thicker. So last is the thickest one. So it's earth, water, fire, air, ether, ego, yeah, Mahatattva, false ego, Pradhan, all these to go beyond. That's what we are talking about Shuddha Sattva, when we are not even bound by goodness. That is the highest stage. So that's like a really something to aspire. It's possible. So with Krishna consciousness and mercy of Krishna, we can. So but it's always good to know this. That's why I put it here. And in the very beginning stage, there is a pradhan. It's like an untilled field. It's like a primordial dirt. It's the stage before what modern science calls a Big Bang. So even before the Big Bang occurs, there is nothing, right? And that is pradhan. And what caused this Big Bang? Srimad Bhagavatam explains that Mahavishnu glances into this Pradhan and activates it by his time energy. As soon as the time factor comes in contact with Pradhan, the clock starts ticking and the creation clock begins. The transformation takes place and bang takes place, as what the scientist called. So the transformation begins, the space, form, distance, everything starts forming. Even right now, the gap between you and the screen did not exist. All of this had to be created by the energy of the Lord. So Pradhan thus goes through transformation along with sending time energy, and Lord sends jivas and souls. Lord impregnates the Prakriti by glancing and sends the souls who are scheduled to have their experience in material nature. And modes are created by Lord to bind these souls. So I just want to give a simple example that what is this binding? See, what happens is soul is spiritual by nature, but to acclimatize and to condition the soul to live in this material world, they get conditioned by these three modes, and thus the soul starts identifying itself with the body and false ego. That the powerful soul, the capacity of the soul is immense, but all of that is forgotten by us because now we are identifying ourselves with this body. I, me, mine, this is me. So the simple example is wood. For example, there is a wood and it is meant for the indoor use by default. But if we put it outdoors, it's going to rot, right? By the weather. If it rains and the weather conditions, the cold, it's going to start rotting. But what one does is that they put the wood through a lot of process, say apply chemicals, dip it in oil, etc. And now the wood is acclimatized, it's conditioned so it can operate or stay in unfamiliar, unknown environment. And that's what's happened to us. The soul is now familiar with this unknown environment, the material nature, because it is acclimatized, it is conditioned by the modes, right? So that acclimatation has taken place by the modes, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and that is binding us and keeping us here. So the Maya is very strong, but there is a way out. There is Krishna consciousness. But what I'm trying to say is that what's happened to us is by this conditioning, we are here. So all the modes are competing for supremacy, and whichever mode is supreme or dominant, that mode is the boss. So say for example, passion is dominating, then goodness and ignorance are going to be the servants and help the passion in its agenda. So if sattva is dominating, then rajas and tamas are going to work under sattva. All the three are required. See, all the three modes are required. At any time, we can't say, oh, I don't want tamas in this world. Because if there is no tamas, think how the trees will decompose, right? The soil, the bacteria, they are doing its job in destruction. They are in tamas mode. So that is also required. Everything is required. If there is no tamas or destruction, then there is no creation and it cannot happen smoothly. And then what will you maintain? So that's what I wanted to explain, that all the three modes at any time are going to remain in this material world. We need all the three, right? So for example, Hiranyakashipu, he did yoga, he did lot of austerity, but his tamas was so strong that sattva and rajas became its servant. So with the power of sattva and rajas, the tamas was destroying in him. Because you cannot accomplish yogic siddhi without some level of sattva gun, right? And you cannot have strong ambition, without passion. So his ambition was to kill Vishnu or become unrivaled emperor, destroy Devtas and take control of them. So his demoniac mentality, it needs rajas. And so the sattva and tamas had become its servants, and it was helping him accomplish whatever he wanted. Thus, there is a ratio of dominance. Whichever mode is dominant, that is going to rule. So, that's what I wanted to talk about. That yeah, we are conditioned, and that's what's happened to us, and how the modes are going up and down. And there is this really nice stories that I wanted to. There are many stories, but 8:30, we can just pick one or two. The Mrugrari, I wanted to mention this story because he was in a complete mode of ignorance, right? Because he was taking pleasure in killing the animals. But then when he comes in contact with Narad Muni, his instructions and association, he becomes so pious that he could not even then think of hurting an ant. Forget killing animals, he would not even hurt an ant. To pay obeisances, he'll clear the floor first gently. So this is the effect of Krishna consciousness, that he was lifted from tamas to sattva. And Vritrasu demon, what about him? So what happened is that Vritrasu demon, although in the body of a demon, he was a yogi. Because from his previous life, he remembered all his samskaras. In the previous life, he was King Chitraketu, and he was a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And then because of, there is a long story of history, we won't go into it, but because of the curse, he becomes a demon, curse of Mother Parvati. And then he has to fight with Indra. Now, Indra is a demigod, but while fighting with Vritrasur, it went on for so many years, Indra gets very tired. And Vritrasur starts giving him all the knowledge of the bhakti yoga, that come on, you have to fight, this is your duty. And while fighting, he's literally speaking from the Shastras. So Krishna consciousness is all about internal, what is inside of us, not our appearance. Even though he's demon, he is a great yogi. He is in the mode of goodness. And Indra, even though he is a demigod king, he was not so realized soul. He was, getting tired completely in mode of passion, and he could not fight anymore. So there is also a story of Bilva Mangal Thakur, how he was in the goodness mode and then he falls down, and due to the curse of the king's daughter, he takes birth again, but then in that birth he had a lot of desires and lusty desires. But then once that lady whom he used to go and see had illicit relation, she one day opens his eyes by saying that if this much affection and hankering you had for the Lord, then you will achieve the Lord. And that opens his eyes, and then he goes, and then again he falls for passion. Then he pokes his eyes, and then he's a blind devotee, but he used to sing bhajans for Lord Krishna, and Krishna would personally come and he's singing, and Krishna would sit and listen to his bhajans. Such was his devotion. And then there is Sant Tukaram story also. He was a very, very elevated devotee. He used to form abhangas for the Lord Vitthala in Pandharpur. And then he had a very lot of miseries in his life, but he was so determined to Krishna prem and Krishna bhakti. And his wife was in the mode of passion, but she was very, very much attached and chaste wife and attached to the family. She had this buffalo from her mother's house given to her and the children, and they were living in poverty. So she just wanted, she had lot of desires to live a good life, but at the same time she was serving Sant Tukaram very nicely. So at the end of his life, a plane comes from Vaikuntha to collect Tukaram, the Vishnu Duta. So he goes to his wife to the hut and says, come on, because you've been chaste to me and you've looked after me so nicely, you should accompany me to Vaikuntha. You have every right. And to his complete disbelief, she says that, no, how can I just leave this house and children and my buffalo and come with you to Vaikuntha? You go. I have to look after my house. So she is still in that passion and ignorance, even though living with such a great devotee. And there is the story of Jada Bharat. So then there is this, Lord Krishna talks about all the symptoms of three modes in this chapter, the soul's connection with the three modes and its destination. So, along with so many hands on self analysis tools, it's a very practical chapter. Lord Krishna is providing all the, the characteristics that if you're in this mode, what will happen? If you're in this, what will happen? And then what is your destination? And then all the different activities you do, in which mentality and in which consciousness you should perform. All that he's explaining. So we can analyze our own personality and identity. Thus, we can move up to higher planets. That's why this is a very practical, hope-giving chapter. So by identifying our modes, we can work out our Krishna consciousness. We can come out of this earthly planet and save ourselves from moving down to hellish planets or gliding to animal life. We can analyze during the whole day, we can analyze how much percentage I'm in sattva, how much in rajas, how much in tamas, right? We can do that. We can discipline the mind. We can use our intelligence to make the right choices. Because these modes are affecting our choices. But if we use our intelligence, if the intelligence is the boss, we can say, no, that's not good for me. This is good for my consciousness. So it's very hope giving, and to know that it's the modes are influencing my nature, thoughts, impressions in certain way. We have this knowledge, which is, a great thing. So, however, we have to understand that I am the soul and I am different from all these modes, sattva, rajas, and tamas. They are just conditioning me to act, to speak, to think in certain way. But if I, the soul, is actually beyond this sattva, rajas, tamas, then how fortunate I am. You know, we have to, we have got this human birth. It's a perfect opportunity to inquire about the absolute truth. So all the 9 processes of bhakti, we are aware of kirtan, japa, prayers, devotee association, reading, chanting, hearing, you know, the lectures, and by Krishna's grace, then one day we can overcome Maya. There is this beautiful verse in 7th chapter, 14th verse, Devi Hyesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duratyaya, Mam eva ye prapadyante, Maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So, our spiritual practice is to please Krishna so that we get his grace. And the presence of Maya is strong, no doubt. And our efforts sometimes seem to be very tiny. And, you know, we think how we will remember Krishna at the time of death. But then in Bhagavad Gita, verse 10, chapter 9, Maya Dhakshena Prakruti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetu Nanena Konteya Jagat Viparivartate. Maya is under the control of Krishna. So if we take Krishna's shelter, we are going to be fine. The current state should actually humble us that, you know, we are under Krishna's shelter. So, you know, we sincerely want to cry out for his help. We want to serve him. We sincerely don't want to make offenses. And our only hope is to make Krishna happy. The words, you know, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto, Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. So Krishna says that, you know, I will deliver you. He promises us that this Krishna consciousness is, it's the only solution. For me, it feels like, you know, knowing how these modes and how we are bound up and how we have ended up here. But then there is a big, this promise from Krishna that you surrender to me, you become my devotee, and you perform all the 9 processes of bhakti, do your best, and then at the time of death, I will definitely, come and rescue you. So, yeah, the last slide I have prepared, but yeah, someone has raised hand. I'll come to that 1 minute. That I was hearing the 25th chapter of the Canto 11, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Uddhav Gita. Lord Krishna explains very beautiful all the 3 modes of material nature to Uddhava. And verse 32 to 36, if you have time, if you can go back and read at any point, the entire chapter is very beautiful. And obviously, I can't cover everything because the last section is connected to this, and we will hear, looking forward to hear from other speakers on that topic. So if you want to read beforehand, you will be able to understand it very nicely. So I just wanted to share that. And it's almost 8:40, so I'll stop share the screen. And yeah, if there are any reflections, then there are messages. Okay. Is there any question there that I need to read or? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear devotees. You are very kind, actually. You know, you're writing all these encouragement messages to me. That is so nice. We all need encouragement, especially juniors like me in bhakti. And this is very nice. It's very nice to know that something that I'm really trying sincerely is making some sort of sense. Then that is a success, because how do we know? Okay, there is a question. Okay, I'll come to that. How do we know that Krishna is pleased with our service? So we know that Krishna is pleased with our services, devotees are pleased. If devotees are happy, then Krishna is happy. So even if, made it your worthwhile to stay online and here, then I'm very pleased. Maybe one day Krishna will be pleased with me. So there is a question: is intelligence about three modes? Okay, there are a lot of senior devotees here. I guess there is there is Krishangi Mataji is there. There is Palika Mataji, Vishalni Mataji. Okay, please correct me if I'm wrong. But my understanding is that yes, there is the false ego, then there is the mind, and then the intelligence. So intelligence is definitely higher than the mind, right? So intelligence is something that will differentiate between right and wrong. For example, you have a choice of eating, say, to a particular restaurant, and because you are now Krishna conscious, you don't want to go and eat there because your consciousness will be affected by the cook who has cooked that food. Rather, you would stay at home, prepare some nice meal, offer it to your deities, and then chant beautiful offering prayers and then honor the prasadam. So here the intelligence will tell you do this. So yes, my understanding is intelligence is about the modes, and if we are Krishna conscious, then Krishna will guide us from within. If we have taken shelter of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, then intelligence can overcome the modes. It's a practice. So, Puja Mataji, would you like to unmute and give your reflection? What is it okay? And
Yeah. Yes, Mataji, I think that's basically what I thought. But if somebody is in a, I mean, that's okay for somebody in a mode of goodness or higher passion. But if somebody is in the lower grades of lower passion, higher ignorance or ignorance, can they think rationally? That's what is my main question. Can they think that what I'm doing, I need to change from this way of my life to go into the mode of goodness? Some can do, and I think some cannot, isn't it?
Okay. Yes, Mataji. So there the association is that's why very, very, very crucial that we are what we associate with.
Yeah.
So, if we are going to associate with people who have tendency to smoke or drink, we are going to become alcoholic. I was listening, this is from a lecture, it's not from my. And then if we associate with devotees, they will take us to temple, they will tell us, come on, there is this online class, here is the link, come on, join, let's listen, let's recite verses together, or let's understand Bhagavad Gita. So that's how the association happens so much. So if somebody is there is something called Sukruti, Agyata Sukruti. The mercy of the Lord is very important. So if that person is blessed by the Lord and somehow with Agyat Sukruti of having eaten prasad somewhere, someone has given him prasad and he's eaten it and his consciousness is slowly changing, then definitely there is a chance for that person to move up the modes. Definitely. Uh, so there is this free will also, then there is this Agyat Sukruti, Lord's mercy. There are many factors here, Mataji. The association, all of this, I think this is my own understanding.
That's fine. Very nice. Thank you. Well explained.
Yeah, and Palika Mataji, would you please give your explanation, Vishalni Mataji, and who all the devotees here, senior devotees, please, would you give your
Hare Krishna.
share your thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Gaurangi. Yes, you did point out all the steps. Yeah, the association is the most important thing, and through association, and we became here because of the association with Srila Prabhupada's group, going to the temple, associating with the devotee. I wouldn't say I'm in the very highest level. At least I feel there's some progress from where I was. Definitely, so you gave the right answer. So yes, because if someone is mode of ignorance, also you said Shukriti, if he has done something in a previous life, they will come in contact with the devotee. and that's how everything will roll. So yeah, you gave the right answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji, for your input. Yeah, I've just thought about it that when I was young, my mother was always used to say that, okay, so when you grow, when you are born, then someone has put money in your account. Okay, someone gives money, this child is born like that. So you're born with a zero bank balance. But and then slowly you make your way up, you earn money or whatever, and your balance goes up in the bank. But the beautiful part of doing any spiritual activity of bhakti is that if we are, say, at 50% in this birth, this lifetime, and we move on to the next lifetime, we will start with that 50%. So, many times we see that these very, very young devotees, they are reciting verses like parrots. They know the knowledge. They are such young devotees, but they are speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam. It feels like they are realized souls because they are bringing it from their previous samskaras, their previous births. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, that wherever we are, whatever percentage, next life we are going to start from that percentage. We are not going to start from the zero balance. That's why this process is so beautiful. And the Gyat Sukruti Prasadam, that's why Srila Prabhupada used to feed prasad. He used to cook and feed. Even when he went to America at that age, he used to cook such wonderful dishes and feed all the newcomers into Krishna consciousness, all the white-bodied devotees and, hippies, because this is what the prasadam changes the consciousness. Because at that level, if they are in a very high ignorance, how can we move them up? If we talk philosophy, they will not be able to understand, or they don't want to focus, they can't hear lectures. So giving prasad is the best thing, because everyone likes food, and that's the way to attract them and give them some mercy of Krishna. Prasad is mercy, right? In Gujarati, my mother used to say, Prasad is Prabhuna Sakshat Darshan, means the Lord is in front of you in the form of prasad. So that's my understanding.
I was listening to a lecture this morning or yesterday morning. One of the devotee, a very beginner devotee, who that day it was the sorry, I think it was the um, birthday of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada cooked a very nice meal, and he said Prabhupada was serving, and every single prasad was as if Srila Prabhupada had a kind of a golden aura and around his head, Everybody was looking at Srila Prabhupada, and they were saying, wow, what a wonderful prasad. They were just wanting, and somehow Srila Prabhupada just left that room, and all the prasad in their plates were nearly finishing. But then they were crawling where the prasad was left, and they were just going, and they wanted to take every single grain because they felt completely change of consciousness. They felt it that they're so powerful. The one devotee was speaking, and it's always normally in the morning. In the morning, if you go to that site, all the devotees speaks how Srila Prabhupada really helped them, and mostly it was prasad. It was mostly prasad because they wouldn't be able to understand any philosophy that time. So that's why Krishna Srila Prabhupada is such a pure devotee. Knew that that's the only way they can get to their heart. So they were explaining. It's so wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, Mataji. And that reminds me sometimes, when the sannyasis and when there is a leftover from their plate, we should take, if we get a chance, if we are fortunate to get our hand on it, because their consciousness is there in that remnants.
Transfer. Yeah, that's why
we get that mercy as well, by eating the remnants.
Yes, Krishangi Mataji, absolutely. Yeah, we get
that's
the
why
mercy.
Narad Muni came, because he was taking those the saintly person's prasad every
yes.
time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he was a boy, and then in the next life he gets he's Narad Muni then, isn't it? Because of that, the consciousness came into him from all the eating the remnants of the sannyasis. So Yeah, and in ISKCON, this is a beautiful thing. I know one more thing about prasad. It attracts lot of people to the temple. The prasad is a big attraction, and that's nice because that was the idea of Srila Prabhupada, that our prasads should be always very tasty and wholesome and very delicious, because then people will come. They will have prasad, then they will join the sangha, they will listen to kirtans, and now there is this COVID, but on Sunday how our manor temple would be so, it will be filled with devotees. There will be no space to go. There will be lots of singing and kirtan and jumping, and the 7 p.m. Aarti, 7:30, and then even 9 o'clock, and between that time we'll sit down and do some kirtan, and yeah, so hopefully we'll get through this and the good times will return. But meanwhile, this online sangha is very nice. I mean, it's a blessing. One more thing I just wanted to mention is that there are many unfortunate people out there who do not have this Krishna consciousness as a support during this COVID time. And we have got this. We know that how it has really helped me. In fact, it has helped me to sit down and read and hear during COVID. And I'm sure maybe most of you agree with me that this has become a blessing, that we have slowed down in our life and we have come closer to Krishna somehow, and devotees online.
Yeah, because of COVID, we are having more classes online. We are learning a lot more than we ever did before.
Yes, yes. So if you know of any, friends and family who are not aware of all these classes, as Divyanam Prabhuji was saying, we should include them to these classes, and we should share Krishna consciousness with everyone, because when we hear how they are struggling in COVID because they do not have this guidance and support of Krishna consciousness, for them it's much harder to go through this time, right? So... yeah, anyone because I was speaking to someone who's going through something like that, finding it very hard because they are not involved in this online classes or they are not Krishna conscious. So, yeah, and please share your reflections on the verse, dear devotees, if you like to. We can go on for a few more minutes if there is anything anyone wants to. Yeah, definitely a blessing. Mataji is saying in COVID lockdown, Puja Mataji is saying that. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get everything. See, the Lord Krishna says that each situation has to pass. This will pass too, right? Because the material world is duality. I was contemplating on it, that in happiness lies the seed of distress, and in distress lies the seed of happiness. So this time will pass too, definitely. We just have to stay safe meanwhile, stay indoors and look after yourselves very nicely, dear devotees, because a devotee's life is very valued. You can make difference to other people's lives by your Krishna consciousness. So please stay safe, look after yourself. And if there is no more to share today, then we can just end here. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Sindhubhevcha patitana pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Thank
Namo
you,
Namo.
Mataji. Hari
Thank you,
Bol.
Thank you very
Mataji.
much.
Jai Gaurangi.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Lovely
Thank
class.
you.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you.
everybody.
Hare
Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you, Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you,
Hare
Jolly
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Mataji. This is from Rita. Lovely class. I was just messaging you. Really lovely class.
Yes, I have read the
It's
message.
very inside class. You know
Okay,
what
I'm
the,
glad that it
what
was
the soul
useful.
is hankering for. You know, it
Hi.
feels like that.
Yes,
I've got
Mataji.
tears in my eyes.
Oh, thank you so much, Mataji, for your feedback. I will try my best to
Really,
serve the devotees.
really, it's really inside. You know, the feeling is there, but slowly, I'm getting there. But it feels that there is a wonderful connection. Surely
That's
after this
very
lockdown, we
nice.
will meet.
That's very nice, Mataji, that you feel the connection. So please join every day. And we have such wonderful Shiksha gurus and speakers that we learn from every day. So we are fortunate.
It's
And bring
wonderful.
friends.
Thank you so much.
If you have any friends who likes to join, please bring them. Thank you, Mitali
Surely.
Mataji. Thank you, Krishna Mani
Thank
Mataji.
you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much, Mataji.
Mataji.
Divyanambra, Mataji, Divya Gaurangi, Mataji. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. It was so
Thank you.
insight today.
Thank you.
I
Each
really
and
liked
every.
the class today.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you for the
Krishna.
Thank you.
encouragement. It's all coming from Krishna and Guru. It's not me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank
Jai.
you.
Hare
Jai.
Jai.
Hare
Stay safe,
Krishna.
everyone. Stay safe.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone.